Hello YouTube, today I'd like to do a video on the Ruger 1022 and my own personal experiences with this rifle, which might actually shock some people because I've not had a great experience with this rifle considering the reputation that the Ruger 1022 has. It's supposed to be a nice, reliable, well-built rifle. However, in my own personal experience, I've not experienced that with the Ruger 1022. So the Ruger 1022 was the first rifle I brought, and it cost me around about £350 about 3 years ago. And the reason why I bought this rifle was because all the great reviews that's with this rifle, you never hear really anything bad about it at all. But like I said, unfortunately, I've not experienced that. So I just wanted to get out there that sometimes, even when a rifle's got a really good reputation, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a good rifle. I don't know if I've got a lemon that was built on a Friday afternoon just before someone finished work, but I've had quite a few problems with this rifle, and it's not on really. So the first problem that I had with the Ruger 1022 was feeding issues. Okay, I'd like to state that with the 10 round magazine the rifle works fine. Okay, it feeds 99.9% of the time. However, I bought 3 of these Ruger BX25 magazines, and they're about £30 a go, so they're not cheap. So you buy 3 1022 BX25 magazines, that's about £90 that you're paying. Okay, and I saw nothing but good reviews about them on YouTube and stuff like that. However, every single one of these magazines that I own do not work, hardly ever. It's quite shocking really. They probably work about 25% of the time. And that was after I had to fiddle around with the magazines to make them work. What I had to end up doing was filing down the front with a Dremel tool on all 3 magazines just to get it to feed with certain rounds. And the only rounds it will feed with now is the mini mags, or rounds with that same shaped bullet. But before that, before I actually drummed down the front, the magazines would not feed anything. The rounds were getting caught up on the front of the feed lips and it would not chamber. So I was like, oh great, fantastic, right. So I thought maybe they need breaking in, done what everyone said, you know, leave the rounds in the magazine for a while to weaken up the spring a bit and stuff. And I thought, okay. So I'd done that, didn't change anything. I changed the charging handle because I thought maybe that was an issue. Maybe the factory charging handle wasn't a bit weak and it was causing problems with feeding. So I changed it for a Volcolson one, which is about £50 a pop. That changed nothing. What I ended up finding out was that if I put a bit of tape around the top of the magazine here, as you can see I've done with this one, it does improve feeding slightly. But it's still not great. I still get about 4 to 5 stoppages per magazine when I'm using them. And that's with things like CCI mini mags and stuff, so I kind of don't even use these anymore, which I was a little bit disappointed with these magazines. And I messaged the UK distributor and Ruger by email, and not one of them bothered getting back to me, which was nice of them. So that was the first issue I had with the rifle, is that it just doesn't feed with hardly any magazine apart from the 10 round mag. Okay, I thought that's fair enough. I thought I could deal with that. Alright. Then what I found a couple of weeks after buying the rifle, I was on the range and I was shooting, and my scope was wobbling. I was like, okay. So I took the scope off, went to go and tighten up the Picatinny rail up on top, and it wouldn't tighten. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? So I unscrewed the pick rail, took it off, looked in, and I could see that the screw threads on the top of the receiver was stripping out. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I know I didn't over tighten the screws when I first put the scope on. I was like, okay, how's that happened? So what I ended up having to do was glue it basically onto the receiver. Yeah, bond it onto the receiver, which was a little bit disappointing because I thought, well, that's not exactly great quality really, is it? If the screws are going to thread out at the top of the receiver, which is supposed to be, you know, it's meant to be a metal receiver. I was like, oh great. And I was really disappointed with that. I mean, that's quite bad really, because that's the receiver that's damaged, which is quite annoying. The next issue that I had with this rifle was when I use a suppressor. Now, if I'm not using a suppressor, the rifle's fairly accurate. It's not too bad. But when I put a suppressor on the end of this barrel, the accuracy is shocking. And when I say shocking, I mean it's shocking. When I was shooting, groups were all over the place. I couldn't group at all with it. So I thought, oh, maybe it's the suppressor. Maybe that's something wrong with that. But no, I used it on another rifle just to confirm it. And the rifle that I used it on, my CZ, it worked fine. It was grouping fine on my CZ 452. But it just would not work on this Ruger 1022. And I came to the conclusion it must be the screw threads on the end of the barrel that's not been cut properly. So that's really annoying when you shoot down at a gun club and you have to kind of use a suppressor because you're in a built-up area, and you know, people complain about the noise and stuff and that. I know, right? It's a gun club and people complain about the noise, yeah. But there you go, right? So, in theory, I can't really use this rifle down at that club anymore because I can't use the suppressor on it, which is really annoying. You know, so I'm quite upset with the Ruger 1022, to be honest with you. I don't think it's as good as what people make it out to be. And to be quite frank, I wish I never bought the rifle. I'm very, very disappointed in it. You know, it was the first rifle I brought. I went for this over a 1522, which I wish I never done, because when I eventually did buy a 1522, it was such a better rifle than this. I actually enjoyed shooting this. Don't enjoy shooting this rifle at all. It kind of just sits in the armory now and just kind of gathers dust. I mean, I don't really use it anymore because it is such a disappointment, and it just winds me up every time I shoot it. So, would I recommend a Ruger 1022? In my own personal experience, no, I would not recommend a Ruger 1022, for a lot of reasons. First reason, you know, the rifle. Okay, I know it's got a good reputation, but my personal experience with the rifle has not been great. I spoke to other people that say they don't like them, and you know, you really have to modify these rifles to actually get any enjoyment out of them, per se. Like you can see, I've put a different stock and stuff in here and that, because the basic stock's a bit rubbish, to be honest with you. You can't attach any bipods to it or anything like that. I would definitely go for a Smith & Wesson over a Ruger 1022 if that's the price mark that you're in, because by the time you've upgraded the Ruger 1022 with, say, like the bolt release, you know, a new charging handle, a new stock, you probably ended up paying more than what you would have paid for a 1522 in the first place. And I really do think the 1522 is a lot better rifle than the Ruger 1022. I mean, but if you have the money, get one of these. If you want a 22 semi-automatic rimfire, crystal defiance, this rifle's beautiful. I love it. It's such a nice rifle. It's so much better than the 1022 anyway. I love this rifle, and I'm very glad that I brought it, and it doesn't leave a bitter taste in my mouth with how much money I paid for it. I mean, I paid £900 for this rifle, but it doesn't leave a bitter taste in my mouth. Considering I only paid £350 for this rifle, about £150 for the stock, £50 for the charging handle. I think the bolt stop was about £5 because it was one of those polymer bolt stops, and the magazines and stuff like that. It cost me more than what it did for my Smith & Wesson 1522, which I should have just got in the first place instead of buying this, because I absolutely detest this rifle. I really want to get rid of it, but I don't want to sell it to anyone because I'd feel bad actually selling somebody this rifle, to be honest with you, taking someone's hard-earned money off them for this thing. However, if I knew someone with a ticket,
and had a free 22 slot on there for a semi-auto, I'd gladly give it to him for free. This is honestly how much I hate this rifle. I think it's a really overrated rifle, and there is so much better 22s out there nowadays than this. Okay, maybe back in when these rifles first came out, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. Yeah, this probably was the rifle to go to. It's probably one of the better 2.2 semi-automatics. But with the stuff that's coming out nowadays, like the Smith & Wesson, the Chris Defiance, the Tippmann Arms, you got rifles like the Landtech AR-15 rifles and stuff, and that. I would really not go for this rifle. I'd pay the extra and go for the others. Because this rifle, I really just do not like it. I mean, the standard sights on the Ruger 1022 are terrible. The old buckhorn sights, they're absolutely terrible. I can't believe they've not upgraded them yet to a better sight, because they're rubbish, to be frank. The rifle itself, if you compare the build quality of this rifle compared to the build quality of this rifle, it's miles apart. However, I do realise that that's the reason why the Chris costs a lot more than what the 1022 costs. But yeah, it's just, I've not enjoyed it at all, in the slightest. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if I just got a lemon and I was unlucky, but to have 3 quite bad problems with this rifle, it's taken the mickey a little bit, I think, really. I could have dealt with the feeding issues by just using the 10-round magazines. I got a little bit more wound up when the sight rail kind of like threaded off and I had to glue it on, which I wasn't too happy about. But then the last straw for me was when I put a suppressor on the end of it and it just won't group, and it was just like, is there anything else that can go wrong with this rifle, really? And it's not down to me and maintenance. I keep my rifles clean, I look after them, I don't bash them about. So I just don't know. I really don't know. I wish I never brought one anyway, I can tell you that. So yeah, I would personally, my own personal experience would be just stay away from this rifle, go for something else. If you haven't got the money to get a Smith or Chris or something like that, just go for a nice CZ455 or something like that. Nice quality rifles then. Unlike this piece of junk. So I know, sorry, this video has been a little bit of a rant about the Ruger 1022, but I kind of just get sick and tired of hearing people go, oh yeah, it's such a great rifle, it's this, it's that, it's this, that, and with my own personal experience, it's not been all that great. And it, especially in the UK where we get a rifle, it goes on a ticket, it's not as simple as just taking it back to the shop and going, hey mate, I bought this, it's a lemon, I want another one. It's not as simple as that. You have to start sending paperwork off to the police and all that kind of stuff. Then you have to wait months to get your license back to then go and get another rifle, etc., etc. So it's really disappointing when you buy a rifle, especially your first rifle that you buy, and it just doesn't work. So I thought I'd just get that out there so people can, make their own mind up if they want to get a Ruger 1022. Instead of always hearing good reviews about it, this one's actually a bad review about it. So thank you for watching, and I wish you a good day.